Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's time now for Headliners. I'm Mark Dolan, and in this next hour, we'll take a look at tomorrow's papers. And I'll be honest, we've pushed out the boat. We've got the A-team. You get what you pay for. Leo Kearse and Diane Spencer. We've splashed the cash, but they're worth every penny. Find out why after the headlines with the reassuringly expensive and very brilliant Miranda Shunker.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. A cabinet minister has responded to criticism from the Archbishop of Canterbury over government plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. The leader of the Church of England, Justin Welby, said the proposals raised serious ethical questions. However, Brexit Opportunities Minister Jacob Rees-Mogg says the deal will help protect migrants from people traffickers and the dangerous journey across the Channel. In his Easter sermon, the Archbishop of Canterbury said the plans are the opposite of the nature of God.
This season is also why there are such serious ethical questions about sending asylum seekers overseas. The details are for politics and politicians. The principle must stand the judgment of God, and it cannot.
Ukrainian soldiers have appeared to defy a Russian ultimatum to surrender in the besieged city of Mariupol. Russia claims it's close to seizing the city in the southeast of the country. President Zelensky says he's in touch with remaining troops there and the situation is extremely difficult. Meanwhile, Moscow says Ukrainian fighters are holed up at the steelworks, which is now the only area of Mariupol not under its control. The Home Secretary has suggested the PREVENT programme may be changed after the whole life sentencing of the killer of Tory MP Sir David Amess. Priti Patel says there are things that need to change about the government's anti-terror scheme. A review has been launched into PREVENT after several recent attacks were carried out by people previously referred to the de-radicalisation programme, including Sir David's killer. A 64-year-old woman has become the first person to be convicted over the Just Stop Oil protests. Catherine McLean admitted aggravated trespass for her part in blockading a fuel depot in Thurrock last Wednesday. She was ordered to pay £409 in fines and costs at Chelmsford Magistrates Court. 2 other defendants denied the charges and were remanded into custody. So far, 23 people have been charged. Police are investigating after an unverified video appears to show Nicola Sturgeon breaching Scotland's COVID laws. The First Minister is seen apparently not wearing a mask during a visit to a barber's in South Lanarkshire yesterday. A spokesman for the SNP says Miss Sturgeon accidentally entered the shop without a face covering before putting one on. Police Scotland say they've received a complaint which is currently being assessed. Well, on TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to headliners.
Welcome to Headliners. I'm Mark Dolan, and in the next hour we'll take a look at tomorrow's front pages. Helping me do that are the creme de la creme of British comedy. Tonight, a pair who are to comedy what Kinder Surprise eggs are to Easter, without the salmonella. It's the excellent Diane Spencer and the scrambled Leo Kearse, one shell of a guy.
Salmonella free?
Definitely. Always. Happy Easter. And how many eggs have you eaten so far today, Leah?
I have eaten 4 eggs, and they were all on Rice Krispie treats made by Diane.
Well, listen, Diane, you came in, you're the fairy godmother. Not only are you the queen of comedy here at GB News, but you're its main caterer as well.
Well, you know, when I see a group of hardworking people trapped in a basement in the middle of London, I think this ain't Victorian times. We've got to spread the love. Yeah, they were little cornflake cakes and I made them with chocolate and syrup because they're so fun. And you get the little, like the mini eggs, and they're all different colours. And what's amazing is they're all the same chocolate inside, but people still pick based on the colour of the eggs on the outside.
Always.
It's bizarre.
It is irrational, isn't it? Your baking is amazing. You are like a sort of a Mary Berry with working ovaries. That is basically.
Thank you.
I do a great line in compliments, let me tell you.
Well, I'm a Paul Hollywood with a smaller prostate. Where's this going?
Yeah, definitely. You're like a sort of thin Paul Hollywood. You're like Paul Hollywood after I don't know, some kind of crazy low carb diet plan.
Right. So not so much Hollywood like Los Angeles, but Hollywood, a small town in Scotland.
Potentially. Listen, you're a pin-up to me. Let me tell you, Leo Kearse. Let's take a look now at tomorrow's front pages, and we start with the Mail. And here's what they're leading with: outcry at Justin Welby's attack on ungodly asylum plan. The Rwanda deal has been denounced by the Archbishop, and he said that it will fight traffickers and save... No, the government say it will fight traffickers and save lives. That's what ministers say. He begs to differ. The Daily Telegraph: Johnson accused of instigating drinks party. PM could face Tory rebellion ahead of pivotal week over number 10 gatherings. My goodness, it's not quite over yet, is it, the Partygate scandal? Cambridge's lead church parade with Queen absent. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge looking very elegant with 2 of their children on their way to church on Easter Sunday. The Guardian revealed shocking rate of female deaths in England's poorest areas. Life expectancy worse than all OECD countries except Mexico. OK, and the FT: Ukraine war and stagflation pose threat to world economic recovery. Go figure. No sugar Sherlock. And the Mirror: Johnson led the boozy party. Boris Johnson led the celebrations at a lockdown leaving do, it is claimed. He allegedly poured the drinks to toast his aide Lee Kane and had often urged staff to let off steam. I'm not sure. I'm pretty over Partygate, but I wonder what my panel think on that. We'll discuss it shortly. The Daily Star. Actor Blessed lays into fame-hungry MPs. 99% of them are just useless. Strife of Brian. All want to be film stars. They need to grow up. Booming actor Brian Blessed has slammed modern politicians, labelling 99% of them publicity-seeking and immature. Gordon's alive! And those are your front pages. We start with Monday's Telegraph and more trouble for Boris, Leo. Partygate won't go away.
Partygate won't go away. This is in the Telegraph. So the Deputy Labour leader, Angela Rayner, spoke out after the Sunday Times reported that a gathering that took place in Downing Street only took the nature of a party when Boris Johnson arrived and started pouring drinks. So Angela said, while the British public was making huge sacrifices, we weren't. We were going round to each other's houses and having lots of drinks ourselves. Boris Johnson was breaking the law, which is really bad. So according to the Sunday Times, the party didn't feel like a leaving party until Johnson himself turned up and he said he wanted to say a few words for Lee and started pouring drinks for himself and for other people. So, I don't know, I think in honour of Boris Johnson, the amount of grief that Boris Johnson gets for having a few drinks. He's been criticised for having a few drinks at a party, having a slice of cake. He was even criticised for evacuating dogs from Afghanistan. It's like, will this monster never end? He likes dogs. He likes having a few drinks. No, cheers, Boris. I hope you stay in. All these mean-minded, namby-pamby, nanny state COVID warriors that want to get you out. No, you're right. You made the rules. They were the wrong rules, but you're right to break them and set the lead for sensible people in this country.
Leo, could you please get off that fence? Really? Yeah. What bothers me now is that you've prevented your own opportunity of becoming Prime Minister because you're drinking at work. That's enough to get you cancelled, isn't it?
I think it would get me promoted. And I am willing to start paying tax in this country. That is how far I'll go.
That will be a first for a stand-up comedian. Diane, look, lots of people watching the show will just say, look, all of this is being leveraged by the Boris critics, the opposition, those that want him out. If he survived Partygate this long, surely nothing can actually occur at this point for him.
Well, you could say that nothing could occur at this point, but the fact that we're not willing, to let Partygate go is really sort of important. And so I think that there is a way of continuing this in the great British public eye to keep it into people's minds that who instigated what, really. Do you know what I mean? It's quite important to work it out.
Yeah, well, listen, it's very clear that I'll be presenting most of this show on my own. If you thought the Mary Berry line was controversial, wait till you hear what Diane and Leo come up with after their third or fourth or fifth glass of Pinot Grigio. It's a very boozy show tonight. There you go. It is the headliner's Partygate special.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It started now.
Well, I think we have our answer. Now we know what our panel think. Let's drag ourselves away from the Cabernet Sauvignon Blanc if we can. Monday's Guardian and Jacob Rees-Mogg has attempted to reframe the Rwanda asylum plan, Diane.
Yes, Jacob Rees-Mogg has said that the Rwanda asylum plan is almost, this is the quote, almost an Easter story of redemption. Now, I think this is absolutely shocking. He said this in response to what has happened in the church, because something magical has happened, like Power Rangers. Archbishops have assembled and they're sort of leaping into action, and they're like, York, Canterbury, and they're all coming out and saying things about this Rwanda plan, saying it's ungodly, it's distressing, it's delusional, it's depressing, and everything else.
And it's like kapow.
Kapow! Now that I have...
Splat.
Yes, it's very much like that. And they're trying to sort of use their powers and their sort of divine intervention to...
Are they wearing funny outfits like Marvel characters as well?
Well, I mean, to my mind, yes. There's a lot of crazy hats involved and a lot of curly sticks. But there we go. Some people like that kind of thing. Whereas Jacob Rees-Mogg is now coming out and trying to defend this plan. I think he's really going about this the wrong way. He's saying that he's saying that the plan cracks down on the illegal aspect of the people crossing, and that there are many legal pathways through which they can enter the UK. And obviously, this is an article in The Guardian, so it is talking about. It's trying to offer maybe not a side of Jacob Rees-Mogg that he likes, but he is the most languid politician we've had, the one that kind of sits there like kind of liquefied cheese on the benches of Parliament.
Probably Stilton, I would have thought.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Little bit of blue in there.
I like it.
A few veins. Bit crusty on the outside.
This is brilliant. Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Stilton of... See,
it's what happens when you give us wine, you see. But look, it's obviously, you know, it's a policy that has divided opinion, isn't it, Leo Kirst?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people have come out to virtue signal about it and say, oh, we shouldn't be sending migrants or asylum seekers to Rwanda to be processed. But of course, it's easy to virtue signal about it when you know that other people are going to make the tough and unpleasant but necessary decisions. And I think, you know, Rwanda, we need to make crossing the channel less appealing to people because it's hugely dangerous. I think 44 people died crossing the channel last year. So, you know, these are unnecessary deaths. There are appropriate avenues. And it's dangerous. We just need to, you know, 600 people came across a few days ago across the channel. It's ridiculous. And also, for all these archbishops and bishops and whatever else that are saying, oh, we shouldn't have border control. Everybody should come in. What, they're going to stay in your house? I went to a cathedral, had a big wall around it with a gate that was locked and a door inside that locked. You know, if they don't believe in border control, why have they got locks on their doors of their cathedrals?
I also wonder, and obviously there's going to be a great debate about this. Some people don't think it'll actually ever happen, like it's a non-starter. But according to a new poll by Savanta Comres, Diane, 47% of all voters support it. Tellingly, 39% of Labour voters support it, even though it's been condemned by the Labour leadership. So I just wonder whether figures in politics and in religion need to think twice before pronouncing on a policy that the public like.
Well, also, I'm not sure why the church feels that it can get involved in this way, because the separation of church and state, in my opinion, is quite important. I understand that they're trying to express their opinion of this particular policy.
Yeah.
But are they in... do they have all the facts available to them?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
That's are they being racist against Rwanda? I think the Archbishop of Canterbury is being racist by assuming that Rwanda is somehow a worse destination than Britain. I'd way rather be in Rwanda. It's sunny. The hotels, the place where you stay is nicer. I saw photos. I'd way rather be in Rwanda than in some, you know, shabby B&B in Ayrshire.
Speak for yourself. I've had some pretty good times in B&Bs in Ayrshire, but I'll spare you the gory details, except to say, hello, Angela, I still love you. Monday's Telegraph now, and the mask slips for Nicola Sturgeon, Leo. It couldn't happen to a nicer person, could it?
Literally.
What a story.
I mean, taking us straight back to Ayrshire. So Scottish police are assessing a complaint against Nicola Sturgeon over footage which shows her breaking her own face mask law. So Nicola Sturgeon, she visited an East Kilbride barber's shop on Saturday.
Short back inside?
Yeah, to get her traditional haircut for an SNP campaign. She wore a tartan mask, obviously, and that was when photographers and camera crews from the media were there, during which she shaved off a man's beard, which is ironic because she's allegedly her husband's beard. But she was seen to be wearing this tartan face mask. But later, mobile phone footage, when all the press had disappeared, showed that she wasn't. She took it off and was just mingling with people, breaching her own rules, which apparently you can now in Scotland be fined with a £60 fixed penalty notice by police. That's a month's wages in East Kilbride, which is reduced to £30 if paid within 28 days.
Yeah, but she didn't know it was a barber's, you know, because she wasn't sure when she went in there. She didn't know it was a barber's, and she was the first one that started cutting hair. So, you know, maybe it became a barber's after she started cutting hair. Isn't that how these COVID breaking rules start? You just sort of go there and then it becomes...
Oh,
well, there we go.
I get it.
Caught on.
I get it. She's talking about the Partygate thing. For a long time there, I was like, she is talking absolute nonsense. But no, it's the Partygate thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But also, £60 fine. I mean, you know, 10 quid cheaper, she could have had a party.
Yeah.
In the barber's.
Yeah, well, too right. I've got to say that there is a degree of irony in that story, but I'll let you guys at home make your mind up.
60 quid would be a good party in Glasgow as well. That's like 2 bags, 3 bottles of Buckfast and a slate of Iron Brew.
When you say 2 bags, what do you mean 2 bags?
2 bags of injectables.
Is that a euphemism?
Self-administered vaccines.
Is that what they are?
They vaccinate you against the depressing reality of life in Scotland.
And don't try that at home, folks. Or in Ayrshire.
Yeah, or anywhere.
Now, look, we're going to segue into drugs. These unsafe epilepsy drugs being given to pregnant women. Diane.
OK, so this is a story in The Guardian, and this is to do with regulators investigating. So the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency has been looking into cases of an unsafe epilepsy drug being given to pregnant women. But there are extra problems with this, not only it being given to pregnant women, but the fact that they are not being given the appropriate information with the drug, so they're not necessarily being warned that this will affect them. Now, the drug itself, it is called sodium valproate, and it's one of the most effective drugs that treats epilepsy. So it's quite difficult to then, if you have epilepsy and you become pregnant, it's quite difficult to actually come off this drug. Because you obviously want to manage your epilepsy, but it does lead to birth defects. And the birth defects can be physical, they can be mental. So it is very, very serious. This drug is also used to treat migraines and bipolar disorder. This comes after there was actually a review into this drug in 2018 called the Cumberledge Review, and it was led by the then Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt. And they realised that this drug was a massive problem, and they have reduced the number of people who are being prescribed this drug. The rate has fallen like 51%, but unfortunately, it's still being prescribed to people, and it seems that there isn't a safe alternative that can be given to pregnant women who also happen to be epileptic.
Yeah, well, look, it's really distressing and, a big concern for anyone expecting a baby. And epilepsy, actually an illness that we still haven't got to the bottom of. I mean, it's devastating for millions of people around the world.
It is, and there is the Valproate Safety Implementation Group, which was formed after the last review, and it does say in this article. So if you're interested in this, do look it up.
Yeah.
It does say in this article, if you are on this drug, don't suddenly stop taking it. You know, even if you're a woman and you've got epilepsy, you want to become pregnant, don't suddenly stop. You do need to talk to a medical professional about it.
Yeah, a devastating illness, and there are some great charities that do a lot of work supporting people with epilepsy, which you would be surprised to find out how common it is.
My grandma had it.
Did she really?
Yeah, she had a fit and she put her foot in the fire and then really burnt her leg. Really
Terrible.
badly.
Shocking.
And then they did trepanning on her head. This was back in the 40s or something, or the 50s. So they literally drilled, because they didn't know what they were doing back then, so they drilled holes in her skull and tinkered. And that was, what they did to
they did try the same with you, didn't they, in the 80s? It didn't really work. Couple of
turned out fine.
Couple of great. By the way, God bless you. Was it your gran?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible. Did she got treatment for the injuries to her foot and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, she I think she was crippled, but I mean, it was
Really?
before my time.
Really? Yeah, devastating stuff. A couple of charities that do brilliant work. The epilepsysociety.org.uk and epilepsy.org.uk. Great organisations. Now to Monday's Telegraph and the entitlement of students, Leo.
Yeah, and the entitlement of teachers. So teachers have complained that parents and pupils are bombarding them with aggressive emails while they're working from home. So yeah, they're having their sessions of watching Loose Women interrupted with work requests from these parents and students. So apparently working hours have become blurred, with students now feeling that they can call in teachers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's educational apps that allow them to get in touch that are exacerbating the problem. I mean, I don't know, these teachers, they're on holiday most of the time. You're only working like a third of the year. You're a glorified babysitter anyway. Like any time you want, you can just tap out. You can get a drag queen in to read a story to the kids and like put your feet up. I don't know, you should try working for GB Got to be here till midnight,
That's exactly right.
Slaving away
This
at
is
the
real work.
coffees.
Yeah, with only a couple of glasses of wine just to keep you going.
Yeah, just like being in the staff room at school.
Yeah.
I will never say. I mean, clearly.
Would you like to offer some balance to that?
Yeah, well, I will actually. I did used to be a secondary school teacher. Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah. I taught drama for 4 years.
That's amazing.
Well, if I was hungover, we played Sleeping Lions for an hour.
Sounds highly inappropriate, I'm not going to lie.
I am joking.
Were you
I am
struck off?
joking. No. But it is a very, very exhausting job. And you are on it from the second you arrive to the second you leave, because everybody wants to get in your face. Everybody, miss, and whether it is incredibly important or, yes, as they say, incredibly just pointless. And you think, oh, really? This is what is important to you right now? But it is. What I will say is that clearly the people who are complaining about this at the Teachers' Union have never been a secretary. Because that is worse. Because at least because I've also been a secretary and a personal assistant. So when you are a teacher and you're getting these emails, you don't have to read them straight away. You don't have to respond to them straight away. So I would say that to the people who feel that it's too much stress. Because when you are a personal assistant, if somebody rings you at 1 o'clock in the morning and says, I think I forgot my dry cleaning, you have to go, oh, silly you. And then you have to not swear until you've put the phone down and then go sort out their dry cleaning.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so I would just say if you're a teacher and this is bothering you, maybe just chill out and just set yourself a time to answer these emails. And then if they email outside that time, that is their loss.
Yeah, use basic time management skills like an adult would. What are you teaching?
Very,
What are
very
you teaching?
wise
You're supposed
words.
to be teaching kids you can't even work a calendar, can't work a diary. Come on.
Wise words. We don't often read emails out on the show because there's so many stories to get through, but I have had an email about Leo, and it's from Declan. He's a regular viewer to the show. Thank you very much for your email, Declan. And he's written a poem about you.
Oh, nice.
Now, I'll be honest with you, I've not really done my due diligence on this poem because GB News is the home of free speech. We don't censor anyone, not on my watch. So here we go. This is a piece of art from Declan into the break. There once was a man named Curse. I promise these lines aren't rehearsed. But if he keeps telling the truth, he'll be classed as a fruit, and his body will be found in a hearse.
Whoa, that's a bit sinister. I think that was
is he a
deliberate.
fan of Leo or is he not a fan
I think
of Leo?
he's got mixed feelings.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That was either a poem or just a warning.
Yeah.
Wow, so we get rhythmical death threats? We get, death threats in the form of limericks?
Listen, there's worse ways to go, let me tell you. Part one is at its end. Let's enjoy Leo whilst he's here. Headliners will rise again after 2-3 short minutes, but we've got lots of great stories coming up. You won't want to miss a second. Diane and Leo, as you can see, on fire tonight. See you in 2.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, a first look at tomorrow's papers. I'm Mark Dolan, and with me is someone whose joyful spirit brings renewed hope wherever she is. It's Diane Spencer. And back after 2 days, Jesus Christ, it's Leo Kurz. I think I'm allowed to do that as a Christian. Am I allowed to do, like, slightly blasphemous jokes as a Christian?
Yeah, because he knows that you love him.
He knows. I feel I've spent enough of my childhood on my knees to be able to do Christian jokes. Don't you say?
In that case, I'm getting in on account of my teenage years. How lovely.
That will do nicely. Monday's Mirror now, and it turns out sex offenders have found a cunning loophole in the justice system, Diane.
OK, so this story is from The Mirror, and it is a story that will fill you full of furious rage. So police forces have let off 870 sex offenders because they have said sorry. Now, this is 5 of these cases, by the way, have included child rape cases. So let's just be clear there. And it's dealt with by something called community resolution. Yeah. Now, I would say that community resolution, in the case of, for example, a child rape case, would be that, I don't know, maybe somebody had spray-painted pedo on the person's car and we'd all taken turns kicking him in the knackers in a car park. But no, apparently, community resolution is that they admit their guilt and they apologise, and then no crime, that's it. Like, there's no punishment. So they literally admit that they've committed a crime, and then there is no punishment. Now, surprise, surprise, this community resolution, which is supposed to be dealing with low-level crimes like shoplifting, where you say, oh, I'm sorry I stole that.
Yeah, of course.
All right, well, don't do it again. You've been caught. And it's the threat of what might happen the next time you do something more serious. And it's to sort of deter kids.
And that makes sense in that context.
Yes, it does. Like, because you don't want to be heavy-handed. You want to sort of... But this is just horrendous. The policy of using this varies from county to county, which is terrible, because I didn't realise we were living in some kind of police wild federalism where they can all make up their own rules. But the South Yorkshire police have been named as shamed. Weirdly enough, the people who were responsible for the Rotherham abuse scandal. And it's just appalling how much they literally used this in those cases where sort of people came to them and said, this horrible crime has been committed against me. They said, well, they're OK. Look, we'll get this bloke to apologise And, well, he said he's sorry, so off you trot. It's absolutely appalling, and it's something should be done.
It gives an indication of how out of whack, this complete lack of punishment is. So one person, Sammy, who's now 36, South Yorkshire Police let her abuser off the hook. She was abused by Arshid Hussein when she was a young teen. So these people are being let off the hook. That guy's now serving a 35-year prison term. So how can somebody who's now serving a 35-year prison term originally be let off the hook for saying sorry? I mean, 35 years or nothing? There's no parity there.
Yeah, it's indefensible, I've got to say, an absolute horror show and a profound injustice to those victims. More systemic injustice now, this one from Monday's Guardian, Leo.
Yeah, so continuing with sexual abuse stories, so The Guardian is reporting on grooming gangs. So they say between 2008 and 2010. I mean, this is The Guardian, so they've actually misrepresented here. There's no mention of the ethnic background or ideology of the abusers, but I mean, we know what it is. You can just look at the mugshots, and they say between 2008 and 2010, a grooming gang was operating in Rochdale. The grooming gang operated between 1997 and 2013. This was going on for nearly 20 years. The Guardian is saying it was a 2-year thing. So this is The Guardian basically lying about grooming gangs. I don't know why. The Guardian has a history of doing this, of minimising grooming gangs and minimising the impact, and particularly minimising the background and ideology that drives these terrible crimes. But anyway, they say, they're talking about the grooming gangs, just horrific crimes. One victim was forced to have sex with 20 men in one night. Another was forced to drink vodka and was vomiting over the side of the bed while being raped by countless men. And these are young teens. We're talking 13-year-olds here. So horrific crimes. And this one of the victims, who was later portrayed in the dramatisation Three Girls, which is fantastic. Dramatisation by the BBC. So in 2009, basically what happened was the victims of these horrific abuses were then persecuted by the police, as if they hadn't suffered enough by being, ignored by the establishment, ignored by the police and social services and councils and everyone else that's in the Labour establishment up there, because they're worried about diversity, they're worried about being seen as racist if they deal with it. So she was arrested when she was 16 and taken to the police station. And after the court case, this is after the court case. So she was accused of being complicit. And 16 years old, she was accused of being complicit. A groomed teenage girl who'd been raped by these grooming gangs was accused of being complicit in them and being a madam for them, procuring girls for them. And after the court case, social services pursued her and tried to take her children off her. She's been through hell, and then they're adding more hell. It's absolutely disgusting. And finally, after 18 months and several hearings, the judge threw the case out. And 5 years later, she won an apology and compensation from social services. But it's disgusting that public services refused to deal with the grooming gangs in the first place out of fear of looking racist, allowed them to operate for 20 years. Absolutely ridiculous. The Labour establishment ignored it, pretty much because they didn't want to lose votes from these communities, and they wanted to appear woke and appear, supporting diversity. Like some Labour politicians even tweeted that these girls are harming diversity. So I mean, I just cannot believe the hell that these girls have been subjected to by the establishment.
Well, Labour MPs tweeted that these female victims were...
Retweeted. Labour MP retweeted and then deleted.
Unretweeted. But what? Retweeted what?
These girls should shut... I can't remember the exact words. These
paraphrase.
Shut their mouths for the good of diversity.
You've got to be kidding me.
I'm not joking.
The stuff of nightmares. That was one indefensible story into another. I'm rarely speechless, as you know. The Guardian once more, and unrest in Sweden, Diane.
Yes, so there have been demonstrators, and they've turned up to throw stones at a far-right anti-Islam rally. So there is this man who, Paludan, is his name, and he has started this group called Stram Kurs, which means hard line. and it's a very anti-immigration, very anti-Islamic group. And he has been in Sweden, sort of stirring up all this horrible negativity, and he has been threatening to burn the Quran. Now, what's interesting is that Paladin was expelled from France for exactly this kind of thing. He was threatening to burn a Quran at the Arc de Triomphe, and they said, well, we don't want you here. Belgium have expelled this man for his hateful behaviour.
A noted troublemaker.
He is a noted troublemaker. I mean, he's being expelled gradually from the entire EU, which is kind of good. He is anti-immigration, yet he is a Danish man in Sweden. He is an immigrant, as he's there yelling about immigrants.
He's culturally similar and...
No, but he's still an immigrant. He's not the same. He's really not the same.
So you're anti-immigration?
No, I'm not. He is. The point is that he's anti-immigration.
I think he's anti a certain type of immigration.
So he's just a racist, is what you're saying?
I mean...
I would say
basically,
he's just a racist.
Sweden is in huge levels of immigration. Like in 2005, they were having like 50,000 people a year coming into Sweden. It's quite a small country. In
10 million population.
Yeah, in 2017, that had risen to 160,000 people a year, and that's the official figures, not including unofficial figures. So what happens when you have a huge rise in immigration is people become more anti-immigration. It's got to be sustainable, and it's got to be, it's got to be doable. And also, we're talking about sexual crime. Official statistics show an increase. 2 to 3% of women in Sweden, historically have reported sexual crime. In 2017, that had risen to 11%. So basically, a lot of the immigration that's coming in is from cultures where women don't have equal rights, and like we've seen.
But what I'm saying is, and my little kind of take on it, is that this man is technically an immigrant to Sweden because he is Danish. So he is an immigrant, no matter how similar
He can't claim to be a Swedish
are.
National protecting his motherland.
Has he been taking part in any grouping gangs?
Well, that's not what he's happening. He's threatening here to burn a religious book. And I think that's bad enough because you've got all these Muslim people who are in the middle of Ramadan, so they're fasting all day. I mean, thankfully, we're a couple of weeks in, so you're already really fasting, and then you look out your window and you've got some nutcase threatening to burn your holy book. It's like, oh, great.
But actually, I mean, I suppose if you have free speech, you could burn any religious scripture. I mean, there wouldn't be a law against that in the UK, would there? Or is it incitement to racial
I'd just like to distance myself from Mark's comments right now.
I don't know. Can you burn? I mean, is there a crime? I suppose, are there... We don't have blasphemy laws in this country, do we?
It's hugely insensitive to people, and obviously the majority of...
I wouldn't encourage doing it, but what I want to know is, are any laws being broken by burning any religious scripture?
Well, what he's doing is that he is possibly breaking the laws about sort of keeping the peace. You know how people have laws against stirring up hatred, for example, and laws against genocide and attacking ideology. I would just say that, before he burns it, he's got to buy it. So if there's a Muslim bookkeeper out there and his name is Paludan, and if you see that name ordering a lot of Qurans, charge him through the bloomin' roof, my friend. Charge him through the roof. At least get a lot of money from
and print them on something that doesn't burn. That'll mess up his plan.
Yeah, that would do it.
I mean, obviously, he's an extremist, and he sounds dodgy and racist. But we've seen politicians like Pim Fortuyn being smeared as far right and assassinated by I think Pim Fortuyn was actually assassinated by a leftist who was worried about his impact on diversity. So but I mean,
cancelled by a lefty once again.
If you have,
quite literally,
if you have huge levels, like just huge, like historically huge levels of immigration, and not all of it not all of it works out. If you know what I mean, it's there have been some issues with Sweden.
I mean, if you've got this solitary,
cause problems.
If you've got this solitary extreme figure who's controversial in Sweden, does that tell you that actually, for the most part, the integration has worked?
It has worked.
Yeah, the integration. That if this guy is a kind of very peripheral figure in politics. Perhaps that demonstrates that the Swedish experiment has been successful.
But I think Europe has traditionally been a very warm and welcoming place, so we need to make sure that that doesn't change. And I think it will change if there's just unsustainable levels of immigration, particularly from ideologies and cultures that are, very different, where, gays, women don't have equal rights. And, I think immigration, people always say that, I read in The Guardian that, people wanting immigration from Ukraine but not wanting it from other places where people are ideologically different is racism. And it's not. Obviously, it's going to be easier to assimilate people who are culturally similar.
Yeah, a fascinating conversation, isn't it? One that will no doubt continue. That's it for part 2. In part 3, we'll be exploring the data around football and emotions, houseplant economics, and why you should watch where you're walking on Snowdonia. You could really put your foot in it. See you in 2 minutes.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with the brilliant comedians Diane Spencer and Leo Kearse. This report from Monday's Times suggests Celtic children are just more advanced than their English counterparts. Diane, let me repeat that. Celtic. I've always struggled with Celtic and Celtic. I thought they meant really small Glaswegian football players.
I mean, why not? I mean, they sound like quite elite anyway.
Celtic children. What is a Celtic child when it's at home?
I think a Celtic child when it's at home, it can be, isn't it all of us? Are we not all Celtic? Or is that mainly Scottish?
It's generally Scotland, Ireland, and I think parts of Cornwall as well. Are
okay. So
fair hair, freckles, anger issues, heavy drinkers.
You're just describing me. But this is all to do with vaping. So essentially, Scotland is preparing to become one of the first countries in the world to try to restrict the advertising on vaping, because 8-year-olds are being lured to try vaping, which you can totally understand, because when you walk past a vaping shop, it's all bright lights, it's all colours, there's pictures of fun little cartoons and fruits on things, and some of the names of these vaping products are incredible. They're called things like Voopoo and Cosmic Frog and Ice Monster, and obviously you sort of...
Which I think in Glasgow are also drugs, aren't they?
Well, they sound like brands of skunk.
Yeah. That's what you go to the party, you've got 2 bags, that's what I learned. 2 bags. And cookies and cream. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Rocky Road.
Yeah.
You see, that's why I never
Tutti
did well.
Frutti.
Yeah, well, they really tried to put Scottish children off vaping by making them fruit flavoured.
Right.
That was my joke.
Isn't it annoying, this whole vaping thing? Because we've just had, like, I don't know, 8 decades of tobacco.
Yeah.
Which we finally sort of more or less slowly got rid of.
We really have.
I'm all for freedom of choice, by all means, smoke if you want, but it's less of a thing than it was certainly when I was a kid. And then we've just replaced it with vaping. So have we learnt nothing?
No, and it's very bizarre because to see these people kind of sucking on these big sort of plastic sticks. I mean, obviously, it's better for you than smoking and actually inhaling ash and all of those toxins. But I can see why sort of being able to puff out these smelly, like, oh, it's peach or it's bubble gum, of course it's alluring to children. So, yeah, maybe the packaging and the...
I actually think what we should do is get the kids back on the fags, because that's the good old days, wasn't it? You know, that generation...
Oh, yeah, because nobody wanted to smoke. You just did it to try and look cool. It was
exactly
disgusting.
Right. And that was the golden generation, you know, the 8-year-old cigarette smokers. They were the ones that grew up to become World Cup winners in 1966.
Snooker players.
Yeah, the white heat of technology, you know, the British economic revolution, post-war.
Think how tall we'd have been if we hadn't smoked when we were 8.
That's exactly right. The Express now, on that rather fume-filled note, are carrying a story about one of our esteemed MPs being honoured with her own park. Leo, great news, this.
So basically...
Are you going to the opening?
I can't wait for the renaming. So, a Northwest London park named after a 19th century 4-time Prime Minister William Gladstone could be renamed after Labour MP Diane Abbott, who's mostly famous for putting her shoes on the wrong feet. So this seems ridiculous. William Gladstone, so he was one of our greatest ever leaders, and he described the slave trade as the foulest crime in history. He wasn't a pro-slavery guy. His family had owned slaves, but slavery was abolished when he was very young. So it wasn't his decision. He thought slavery was terrible. But Brent Council have decided that he's a historical figure, he's a straight white man, he's got a beard, all this kind of stuff.
How many times was he Prime Minister?
4 times.
Is he not allowed his own park?
Exactly. And also...
Is that not enough?
Also, his family probably paid for that park. Is Diane Abbott... I think if Diane Abbott comes in and, they rename it after her, then she's got to pay. She's got to take her kid out of private school and dig deep to find the money to pay for this park. I think she should refund the Gladstone family.
I think she's a very odd choice. I really do, because I'm sorry, but she's got such a controversial track record. I don't see why she has been singled out to be given a park in her name. She sent her son to a private school, as Leo mentioned, after criticising other people for doing the same. Yeah. She failed to declare £17,000 from the BBC. Whoopsie, just forgot. She has consistently made comments about what white people do and how white people are trying to divide people, which is a racist statement.
And divisive.
And it is divisive. And then she absolutely failed to challenge comments made about the Uyghurs and how the Uyghur issue, it's not genocide, it's not really happening. She was in a room with a person making those statements and she completely failed to even challenge it. Yeah. Why they've picked this MP, if you really want to rename the park, at least pick someone that's totally upstanding. Somebody
Priti Patel. Priti Patel Park. I'd go and sunbathe in that.
Well, the thing about Diane Abbott is
Rwanda.
that she has been a trailblazer in the fact that, I guess the first really prominent black female to become a significant figure in British politics.
She's the longest-serving black female MP. Yes,
And I think she gets rave reviews as a constituency MP as well. I mean, she's not very articulate, and her mathematics are even worse than mine. Carol Vorderman, she ain't. But I suppose as a figure, she's an inspiration to many.
OK.
I think there are better.
Yeah, I think that or why does it have to be an MP?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, there's
Sir Jimmy Savile Park.
There's a thought. Well, look, I tell you what, we've got actually a challenge. Can we get through many stories before the end of the show? It's been amazing because we've really sunk our teeth into the stories we've had. But let's go rapid fire now. Turbo Boost as they used to have on Knight Rider. Do you remember that? Young enough to remember that one?
I'm ready.
There you go. Today's Mail, and staring on the tube is an issue. Should Sadiq Khan mandate face masks for our eyeballs on the underground, Diane?
Yes, we should all be wearing blindfolds. Next story, go. No.
This is like a psychological burqa. They're saying you shouldn't stare at women. It's like, that's just a psychological burqa making you not look at them.
OK, so they have launched a campaign where they're trying to stop sexual harassment of women on the tube. I myself have suffered from sexual harassment on the tube. A man rubbed up against me. There was nothing I could do. We were all trapped. I could have turned around and punched him in the face, but then from the outside eye, it's just a woman punching a man in the face, and then I'm the guilty party.
Terrible, yeah.
So the sheer fact that there is something being done, and they're trying to say, no, look, these are the things you shouldn't do. Don't stare in an intimidating way towards a person. Don't rub up against them. Don't do all these things.
Well, the rub up I get.
Yeah,
because
but some people need to be told.
What about, can I only ask you, but what about flirtation? I mean, isn't like a bit of glancing?
There's flirtation, and then there's what some of these perverts do, which I have had before,
And
where they stare at you,
right.
and they come and they start talking to you, and you go, no, I'm really not interested, and they won't leave you alone. That is exactly what she's talking about. And now women have, you can actually report this, and the campaign aims to prosecute people for doing it. So I'm guessing they have CCTV everywhere.
Yeah. Well, look, if it's good enough for Spencer, it's good enough for me.
Right. Yes, I'm getting some mirrored Ray-Bans.
Well, let's crack on, because women's football is, well, apparently an emotional matter. Leo.
Well, this was, you might remember a few days ago, Kenny Shiels, who's the manager of the Northern Ireland women's football team, he made these pretty antediluvian comments saying that women let in a lot of goals in quick succession because they get too emotional. Well, the Daily Mail did some analysis, and apparently it's men that are more emotional and letting more goals in quick succession. So
how ironic.
He's wrong about that.
Gotta love it. I'm loving the rapid fire. Monday's Mail and an unwelcome birthday party, Diane.
Oh, my gosh. So a man in Kentucky has won a payout of just under $500,000.
Which is a lot of money in Kentucky, isn't it?
Oh, my God, it's a lot of money anywhere, isn't it? I mean,
Sounds like the start of a limerick.
Yeah. I think it means you can buy Kentucky, I believe that's the case.
There was a young man in Kentucky.
Oh.
Who's,
Next limerick, please.
By the way, Declan told me off for calling that limerick a poem. He said it's a limerick.
Yeah, it's a limerick.
Yeah, no more death threats limericks. So he won this. This is in the Daily Mail, and he won this payout because he asked his co-workers not to throw him a surprise birthday party. Oh. And he was very specific about it. But then, unfortunately, the colleague who was responsible for cake and social affairs, she forgot. And she was going to throw him a birthday party, and he had to start doing breathing exercises because it completely triggered his anxiety. He sat in the car doing breathing exercises.
Brilliant.
Oh, send him to the front line. Come on.
He came into the office, and he was like, he was going red, and he was like clenching his fists. And then when his superiors were going, it's his birthday, he was going, shut up. So he got fired.
For being violent.
For being violent, even though he was never actually violent.
Absolutely crazy.
But he'd only worked there for 10 months, so I wonder whether he wasn't exactly popular anyway.
Who knows? Doesn't sound like it
Not
to
if
me.
he doesn't like parties.
Far from Employee of the Month. From one unwanted party to another, Leo.
Yeah, so police have warned revellers in Dorset who are going there for an illegal rave. Apparently more than 1,000 of them have descended on a site close to the village of East Lulworth in the early hours of Sunday. They were warned not to cross military firing ranges in an attempt to reach it. I think go for it. Go for it. Come on. Just run across, dodge those artillery shells. See if you can dodge the landmines. I think it adds a bit of jeopardy, adds a bit of fun, a bit of fireworks.
There you go.
Off the party.
A bit of excitement, put some hairs on the back of your neck. How about this? Classic Daily Star. It may well be prudent to watch your step whilst walking up Snowdonia, Diane.
Oh, my gosh. So what's happened is that the beauty spot of Snowdonia is being covered in human poo because people are turning up to Snowdonia.
Is this funded by the Arts Council?
Yeah, it's actually the fifth plinth
Boom! That's what I'm talking about.
And what's happened is one of the guides has said people are pooing on the trail. She was literally leading a tour of people, and there's a guy just dropping a log on a log. And I mean, this happens wherever you don't have enough public toilets.
Yeah.
So my advice to the people of Snowdonia is to just, I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to like dig into the hole. You know, like how the Teletubbies lived in a little house like inside the hill? Dig into Snowdonia, make yourself some public toilets. It's the only way you're going to be able to deal with this because there's poo up a lot of mountains, like Everest, covered in poo. It's covered in poo, dead people.
Well, the worst is Snowdonia, Everest and Central Paris. I think those are your three. Yeah. Yeah. The Champs-Élysées
This is the thing.
at 2 a.m. on a Saturday.
Nobody wants to poo outside. They're doing it. I mean, like, nobody's like, I'm going to go. What are you doing this bank holiday? I'm going to go poo outside. You need to put less fibre in Welsh food.
This reminds me of the brilliant Simon Evans, who presents this programme, of course, during the week. And on his Twitter bio, it just says, I do my poos in Hove.
Wow.
Which is another great line from the great man who's back this week, along with Dominic Frisby. Love this show when they do it. And what a privilege for me to be doing it at the weekends. I will be back for Headliners on Friday at 11 and Mark Dolan tonight on Friday at 9. Thanks for being with me all weekend. It's been so much fun. Happy Easter to one and all. Have a great day tomorrow. Thanks to my team.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion.